my 98-year-old grandma. So the reason I put this picture up here is because this kind of defines and shows me in my true self. This is the one at the bottom sitting yellow is me. I'm like here, there, everywhere, all over. Hey, you, hey, there, everything. So a little bit of chaos, a little bit of structure, that's me, all defined. And the beauty of this picture is that 90% of the people that you see in the picture on the right have all told me as I grew up that reading books, stories, movies, this is what educates you. And I would say roughly 50% of that crowd there are educators themselves. So I grew up reading, and reading is my passion. And that in the middle is my bookcase, my go-to place. When I'm tired, I just lie down there right next to it, pull one up, and that's why it's so messy. But that kind of defines me. Now, the remaining 10% of my family who never told me about reading told me to travel. So this picture together as a whole means a lot to me because it kind of defines who I am and where this route goes. I did end up teaching mathematics. So I teach mathematics at Morel Middle School in San Jose, and this is my 4th year teaching. And a big part of my classroom is about books, and you'll see that as we go in. So, hi Heidi, shout out to Heidi, my I'm so glad you're here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So those of you who are joining us late, please drop it in the chat. How are you doing on this Saturday afternoon? I truly appreciate you taking the time on this Saturday afternoon to be here with us. And which part of the virtual world are you joining us from? Okay, so right now I would like you to please do me a favor and go to this link that says Mentimeter. I'm going to try and put this in the chat for you and type in the code 7553968. That's the code for the Mentimeter. I want you to think of one word that comes to your mind when you see this image on the right, the one with the one that I'm pointing out to right now. When you see this image, what is one thing that comes to your mind? And you have options to put down words over there. I'm going to just see if I can click on the image, and pardon my settings here. I can hopefully open the tab and we can hopefully see how this goes. So perfect. I think that should work. Were you able to log on to the Mentimeter? Can you give me a thumbs up if that works? The code 9553968. If you can plug in some words that thank you, that comes to your mind when you see that, and we will see, oh, perseverance landed. I like that. So you're getting close. Let's see. Perseverance landed. That is true. I like that. Perseverance has landed. And that's been something that we've all been talking about. So go ahead, put some words in, and you will see the cloud populating up there. So let's see what other words we come up with. If you need the link, it's there in the chat, and the code. So this is one tool that I use in my class. The first thing when my students come in, I try to put up a picture and I ask them, what is one thing that comes to your mind? And it's not necessarily math related like it is right now. It's not math related at all. So I'll keep this coming. Let's go back to the presentation and let's see. So what is this image after all? Is it perseverance? No, it's not perseverance. Is it perseverance landing? No, it's not perseverance landing. What is it? Is it Mars? No, it's not Mars. What do you think this is? This is Krispy Kreme's donut that they offered on the day that perseverance landed. If you notice, and if you go zoom in and see right at the bottom over here somewhere, you see that little dough that's visible. That's one part that gives away. But when you look at an image, you don't really look at it so closely, and you don't look at it at depth, and it gets you thinking in a way without thinking about what it could possibly mean. So anyway, moving on. That's just a quick, easy way to get some conversation started. So going back to math. This clip from Incredibles, I don't know if you've watched Incredibles, but this is that scene where the little one is like asking for help on math, and dad says, like, I don't know that way. Why would they change math? This is not math. This is not math. This is not math. And this is a common question that I have, and I've been asked over and over again over the years by parents and families, because they keep telling me, that's okay, Jenna. They keep telling me that this is not the math I learned. What are you teaching? This is not what I was pretty good at math when I was in middle school now, but I don't understand what you're talking about. So what's going on here? And like, I like to say this because nobody ever said openly, no math teacher has ever claimed that I do a reading and a writing and a listening in a math class. Maybe listening, okay. Most of us say that, listen to me, but no math teacher explicitly says that. But there is writing and reading woven into every aspect of a mathematics class. And though it is never ever said openly, though it's never advocated for in those true words sense, there is a lot of writing and reading, and not just in the historic form that it's talked about, in many different ways. So my endeavor today is to expose you to a little few things that I do in my math class, and hopefully you can take away some ways that you can help out the math teachers, or they may probably reach out to you for help. Okay, so what happens in my class? So I'm trying to weave this as a story. So, and at any point, if you have anything, questions or anything that pops to your mind, please feel free to unmute and speak. I mean, it's easier than looking at the chat or waiting for me. It's an open mic system, I guess. Just unmute and speak. I will, if I probably should be able to hear you. If you can, if you have a question, just unmute and speak anytime. So my big question that I ask myself, what activates their curiosity? And who's there here? There are my students. What is something that really triggers their curiosity? And that helps me identify some things that I can connect with them to. I try to use that connection and then lay out my lessons accordingly. So that's one of the first questions that I ask them. What activates their curiosity? And now more so than ever before, because the pandemic has thrown open so many windows and doors that we educators have never been exposed to. Having said that, I try to find out what they're reading. That's a good place to start, because students, all of them read. Some read comics, some read graphic novels, some read magazines, some read blogs, some read books, some listen to audiobooks, whatever it is. What is it that they are interested in? That helps me connect the big picture first together. So when I do this is the survey that I got from my 8th graders this year. These are some of the books that they came up with. And I have to admit, there are a few here that even I have not read. So there's that. Honestly, The Man Who Knew Infinity, I have only watched the movie. I have not read the book as such. I've only watched the movie. So that was like, oops, I have not seen that. I read that myself. But asking them what they read is a good place to start at first. Find out where their likes and where their passions lie at the moment. So once you get that, that'll help you plan, that helps plan out a path ahead on how to interact with them, how to engage them, and how to make it all more meaningful for them. The other question that I ask is, what is it that captures their attention? And honestly, students these days are far more tech savvy than most of us. I want to say most of us because there are still some of us who are like amazingly out there, but they know a lot more technologically than I know for sure. And they talk about movies and clips and things that I have never watched, never seen, YouTube channels, subscriptions to other things. I have no clue half the time what they're talking about. So what is it that's catching their attention? It's no longer that cassette player that I used to play. No, that era is gone. So keep in tune with what is it that they are attracted to these days. I want to play this clip because I'll tell you how it goes. Let's just watch this.
Well, I got a real nice bed of land here.
Excuse me, sir. What are you doing?
I'll tell you what I'm doing. I want to buy 8 hot dogs and 8 hot dog buns to go with them. But no one sells 8 hot dog buns. They only sell 12 hot dog buns. So I end up paying for 4 buns I don't need. So I am removing the superfluous buns.
I'm sorry, sir, but you're gonna have to pay for all 12 buns. They're not marked individually.
Yeah. You want to know why? Because some big shot over at the Wiener Company got together with some...
Okay, I paused it there, but I like this clip because this has so much meaning in not just real world context, but in our own lives and in the math classroom. So this is a problem we all have. Like, we all end up buying more than what we need. And why does it never match? There is so much of math around here that you can do, whether you're teaching fractions or ratios or linear equations or geometry or anything. There is so much here in this clip. Just showing this clip, firstly, it gets them into giggles. It gets them all cracked up and, lively and chatty and commenting on everything. After that, when they realize that they're trying to solve a problem from a movie, they're not really doing math, right? So in the real sense of it, they're not doing anything mathy. They're just trying to help me understand this clip that I have shared with them. Once that happens, they realize later on what math they did. And this is something I do with my students every year. This is one of my favorite movie clips ever. Well, of course, the movie is not something I can show, but here's a clip that I can show you. Here's the crunch of what I want you to pay attention to, and then I assimilate it from there. So this is one thing that I do a lot in my class. I show them movie clips that have some mathematical connection and then pull them on to content from there. Now, there are a lot of legalities and hitches around this, so it's not possible that most of the movies that I like the ones that you see listed here, these are not the things that I can showcase in my classroom, because firstly, streaming those movies is not allowed, and then you have all these copyright and the child protection legalities that walk around with it. So what I end up doing is getting a clip and then showing just that clip and then getting the derivatives out of that. So this has been a long process, now more so in the virtual world than ever before, because earlier I would just play and then pause and it's done, but now it's not as simple. I have to showcase it and present it to them in a way that's more meaningful, easy, and not something that they get frustrated about. So again, movie clips, a great way to engage the students, a great way to grab their attention. And they remember these things. These are moments that they remember from their math classes way more than anything else, than doing a problem on, let's say, trigonometry or Pythagorean theorem or geometry, finding the volume, versus showing them a clip that they can connect to, especially from movies. So this is something that I have used a lot in my class. The other question that I ask them is, what gets them talking? Now this has upgraded, this question has upgraded itself to a whole different level now in the pandemic world, because we don't see them with the cameras on or anything. There is no body language that I can read, and barely, it took me a while to get to know them and to actually get them talking. Chatting is a way next level, I would say. Talking, they just, even introducing and saying yes and no was a great first step for me. So what gets them talking? That's another question I like to ask myself, because that helps me understand ways that I can get them communicating. Now, there are a lot of students in my class who prefer to draw than write. There are a lot of students in my class who prefer to do it digitally, like draw it out or create a comic sequence or something, versus actual talking or doing. And my math class is all about modeling the work, showing how they do it. So whether you speak it out, whether you write it out, whether you draw it out, or whether if you want to act it out, that whatever works with you. But being able to communicate, that big soft skill that they need as an adult, they need as a college goer, they need as a corporate employee, that's something that gets affirmed at the middle school level in every class that they go to, not just the language arts class, but everywhere else. So giving them the opportunity, giving them the option to communicate in a way that is meaningful to them is vital. Definitely more in a math class. And I say that because a lot of people have that stigma around math. And it could be a derivative of the environment. It could be something that got embedded in them, whatever it is. As a teacher, it's my job to make them overcome that stigma and have that communication established. So let's see some ways that I use communication or get some communication done. And it's all a little diluted in the pandemic world, I have to tell you that. But I'm hoping it gets, it is definitely better than what it was in August when we started. So what I do in my class, every month, I make them do a project. Yes, a project in a math class. We do that. Now, this month of February, my students are doing a research project around researching a mathematician. Now, this is cross-curricular in many, many, many ways, not just because it's related to somebody from the past, but it could be somebody from the present too. But it's because of the connections that it uses to science, to social studies, maybe a lifetime event that was happening around that time. Maybe it was World War II or something. I asked them for those connections. And luckily or unluckily, most mathematicians have that overlap as being a scientist. So there goes their connection to science. They go check out, okay, is this science or is this math? Where does that qualify? Is it an overlap? Go research it, go find out, look up, go do some digging in, and you'll figure out. I'll help you, but you need to start. So when I send them that way, the paths are opening up for them to explore. And then they have to produce it. It has to be showcased, right? So there comes the communication part of it, where they expand their skills. This is one thing that I do in my class. That's what they're doing this month. So this month was being February. We had a researcher, and I told them they get bonus if it's a black person, a black mathematician, and double bonus if it's a woman, black person. So woohoo to that. Wrap it up. And I say wrap it up because this is a wrap and I don't have an audio version of it. That's why I kind of put the text, because I just have an image. This is a rap that one of my 6th graders wrote way back in 2017, I guess. And we were talking about fractions because fractions is a big concept in the 6th grade. And this kiddo just came up with this rap. And then one fine day, he just came up to the front of the class and said, I want to show you how to do that. And boom, just like that, there was a rap. And I really cannot do it, but the way he did it was like so engaging. He had the kids all looking at him, ogling, and they were like, wow, dude, you did this. And you know what? The kid understood fractions. And people say fractions is so hard. It's such a difficult concept in math. But that kid just made it sound so smooth and easy that a part of a whole is a fraction. It has now become like an addiction, and just boom, boom. And then kids started banging on the, there was rolls and beats to it. So there's a whole aspect to this. So why not? This is a way that they are showcasing what they learned. So why not? So this is something that people may, and there are so many digital tools available right now that it's probably easier. That was my first year of teaching, so I had no clue to explore all this, but I guess if I go around to digging, rapping, there'll be a lot that that's available. And Flowcabulary is a great tool that's offered by Nearpod that has a lot of the rhyming for the math around it. So check it out. Poetry, why not, right? Like, people keep asking me, math and poetry? No, that's a meme I like, but that is the truth. There is a connection between poetry and math. And I'm going to try one more thing, because we were talking about books, and we were, so rewinding a little bit. So one of the projects that my students did in the month of December, I guess that was, I told them to find the connection between math and music. So that was the project that they were working on. When they came up with all kinds of connections, most common ones being how the pattern is repeated and how there is recognition between the notes. I'm not a music person, so they talked about quarter notes, half notes, and everything. One of the students talked about, actually a couple, they talked about poetry. They said there's a lot of mathematics around poetry. That kind of intrigued me. I'm like, what? And then they sent me this mail. No, Mrs. Raman, this is not what I meant. Here, listen to us. And that's when they sent me this video clip. I'm going to try and play this. Hopefully it plays. Oh, I could not link it directly, so I apologize for. And of course, my internet has to. Let's see.
Hi, my name is Dia.
Hi, my name is Vaishnavi.
We started writing poetry together last March when quarantine started. At first, we didn't think we'd be using math that often, but now we realize how we can use math to express ourselves in literature.
The first form of poetry was oral, and it was made rhythmic and repetitive so that longer pieces were easier to remember. And to make a piece rhythmic and repetitive, you had to include a certain level of math into it. For example, you'd have to keep track of how many syllables were in each word, and how many words there were in each line. And this really enhanced the entire aesthetic of your poem. Some great examples of how math was incorporated into poetry are the Vedas and the Odyssey.
More and more math was incorporated into poetry as time went on, because ancient thinkers wanted to make poetry distinctive as a form. As a result, iambic pentameter, which is a form of poetry, was introduced in the late 17th century. This form was extremely precise and mathematical, and you had to write in this form in order to be considered a respected poet. Some great examples of iambic pentameter are from Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. We use math in poetry all of the time. Each person has a different style of poetry, and mine was extremely mathematical, which I discovered as I started writing poetry. I put a lot of time into formatting it properly, counting out the syllables and making sure the rhymes lined up.
And after reading through Dia's poetry and realizing her style, I've realized that every poem has its own unique mathematical style. And math isn't this completely rigid thing. It is such a flowing piece of artwork, and you're able to incorporate it into basically anything. And literature is just one great thing that just naturally goes together with math. And I think both things complement each other.
Overall, we can use math to express ourselves in literature, which we realized when we started writing poetry, and math can be used to express yourself as an art form.
Okay, anyway, thank you for listening to that, because that was very intriguing when I first heard, and I thought this is definitely something that needs to be shared, because I did not see that connection at all. I could not sense that. I'm definitely not into poetry, but still, to be able to recognize them, to be able to understand and make that connection, to me, that's really meaningful. Okay, let's go on ahead. Book clubs, the favorite, most wanted thing ever. I love book clubs. It's sad that I've not been able to implement that in my classroom this year, but that's something, if as an educator, if as a teacher, you have the ability or the privilege of having another adult help you out, then book club is something that you may want to consider. There are tons and tons and tons of books that have meaning in a mathematical classroom, and I have a starter list that I work out of in the speaker notes section of the slide deck when you access the slide deck. So please feel free to use that as a baseline and build it up onwards. That's for my middle school mostly that I use. I have not done a book club this year, but I do a book club with my own kid in their school, so I cannot miss that. It's something that really brings out the best of the discussions, and associating it to an activity that makes it more meaningful and draws the connection better. Nothing better than a book club for that. So that's something you may want to consider if that comes to that. So what else? The other question I ask to connect with my student is, what else? What gets them listening? Because back on campus, you always see them with headsets, earbuds, like, the Bluetooth. They all have all of them, especially middle schoolers, high schoolers. So what are they listening to? I keep asking them, are you listening to some songs? Are you talking to someone over the phone? What are you doing? And they come up with all kinds of things. They listen to K-pop, they listen to music, they listen to stories, audiobooks, and everything. That got me thinking that maybe something I can consider in the class is a math podcast, because there are tons and tons of great math podcasts that are available and accessible to one and all, not just the educators, not just the adults, but even students. And some of these are actually podcasts that are run by students, by high schoolers and by community college goers. So they do that as part of their community service, and they are fantastic. Not only do they answer questions that students have at their level, I mean, it's different when we think as an adult versus them thinking. So there are some of these podcasts that are driven by the students. They address things about how to keep the notebook straight and, like, teacher friendly, so that there are no complaints. I was really impressed. So one of the podcasts that I heard was how a student said that the imprint of the margin on the right side of the page can be used as a line, and just don't cross that space. Use that space as your scratch paper so that your teacher can see your thinking right away. That was, to me, I would never have thought of that. That has to come from a student's perspective to come and give you tips like that. And then they talk about how calculations can be done by a calculator. Nobody wants you to be doing crunching the numbers. They're looking for you to model the work. And they talk about how the influence of middle school is seen in the high school. So those are things that students, when they hear from other students, makes and brings in so much more value than an adult saying it. So that's something that I have found very useful. Now, how do I do it in my classroom? I play snippets of it. Of course, with the pandemic, there is no time. We've all been crunched to half the time that we already have, a short time off with the students. So I just play them little snippets, and I give them access to it. So most of them listen to it later on. Or if I say, hey, did you listen to the new podcast that's been posted on the number file? Did you get a chance to hear it? And then they'll go listen to it. So it's an ongoing process, but I think it's a practice of mine. So getting them the exposure to a podcast is another easy way to get them to see what they're listening. Now, what gets them showcasing? Because it's all about taking ownership of work, right? Responsibility of what they create, what they make, what they do in the classroom. How do they showcase their work? Now, this has been in the traditional brick and mortar setting. This has been your notebook, whatever it is. But now with the digital world, because we're all in the pandemic, things have taken a different stand. Portfolios, digital portfolios. And I know we've been having quite a few sessions in this conference around digital portfolios. So if you attended the sessions, you know what I'm talking about. That's it. It is so valuable. This is something that my 8th graders are working on this year, mainly because they graduate, and I want them to have something meaningful that they can take back with them to high school, instead of just going with a notebook where they did 77 problems on whatever, cylinders, volume, or something like that, something more meaningful, because we do a lot of good work in the class. How much of it is remembered, how much of it is cherished, and how much of it is reproducible 2 years later is the big concern. Nobody's going to keep that notebook for 3 years. Somewhere down the lane, it's going to make its way to the recycle bin. So I don't want that to happen. Being mindful of that, I thought math portfolios is something that's doable. It's more pandemic friendly in the digital classroom world. And more importantly, it's an avenue where the students choose to showcase what they take pride in. It's not what I graded them on. It's what they want to showcase as something that they are proud of in their math classroom. To me, that is humongous, because it's not just student voice, but it's their choice of the voice. And like I said, this is something that they can take on with them. It's a growing, it's an evolving portfolio. So this is something they can have throughout their education life. A lot of colleges are moving on to this portal now. They kind of mandate students to have digital portfolios. So why not start it at middle school or even elementary? I say, and you'll be amazed at how intricate they are with their websites. They manage it so well. They know what needs to go there. They know what needs to be public. They're very, very particular about that. So that's something that you may want to consider. And some of the best portfolios have it tailored to the subject, tailored to their passion. You could have something around weaving, you could have something around science, something around biotechnology, or your scuba diving lessons, anything that you're passionate about, because it speaks of you. So getting them into that is another great way to do that. I usually use Google Sites because my school is a G Suite school. So, but there are other free ones available. Weebly, Wix are equally good, if not better, arguably. And this also, one of the biggest things I've noticed with portfolios is students get to know copyrights. They really learn a lot around that, and citations, whether they are using images, whether they are using any resources, they need to be able to cite it, and they need to know that it's copyright okay. So that's a whole different layer of learning that's happening while they're showcasing some of their math learning. Few of my favorite sites are Unsplash. I use Noun Project a lot in my slides, so I've taught my kids to use that because, and I know that government websites are free, so I encourage them to go and look for citations and images from the government websites. NASA and those kind of websites are really great and full of information. So just to let you know that that's another great way to showcase student voice and choice, math portfolios. Okay, now comes the big thing. Where do we find the resources? Well, my first go-to person is shout out to my MediaTek librarian, Heidi Rosley, woohoo, because I ask her and she magically produces things. So you people have the magical power in your hands. So thank you, and thank you. I cannot say enough for that, because to me, it's unless I ask you, you wouldn't know. And unless you ask me, I wouldn't know. It's the same thing. So ask. You probably have way more, and you probably never paid attention to it because you thought it would never be useful. Same with me. I didn't know that you would have this, so I never asked. There somewhere in that picture is the treasure lost. So between the two of us, between an educator and between a librarian or MediaTek specialist, there is a plethora, an ocean of resources. We just need to push it together and bring it to our students. So you are my first go-to place for that. But other than that, I do have a few of my favorites, and it's all linked in here. Mathical Books is one of my favorite. I do, like I said, I do book clubs, but my from where I choose is mostly from here. The Mathical Books is a great collection. This is put together by both the NCTM and the NCTE, the National Council of Teachers for English and Mathematics, and the Children's Books Council. They put it together and they come up with the most astounding of all books, right from board books, picture books, graphic novels, to chapter books, to everything. And the panelists who choose, amazing. Actually, there's a blog that I've linked later on by one of the members. You can look that up too. There are so many resources. Teaching books. If you went to the exhibition booth, if you attended the session, you know what I'm talking about. There is a ton that you can dig out from there. I do have a grudge against them. Don't tell them that they don't have the books actually. They have the resources that I can use. That's amazing. I really wish they had the text too, because often the kids just need the books. And as an educator, I can plan around how to do the lesson around it. That much I have the capability, and I just need the material as such. But some of they do have a collection of free resources embedded in. So that's another good place to reach out to. I like Family Math Stanford links because they update them, and they have a great collection from like little toddlers onwards all the way up. And Lenny Wee has an ongoing blog that he updates every now and then. One book one day is another great site that I like to go to. You all probably have a lot more than I do, so please share your gems with us, and that will be astounding. Read if you like libraries. This is something that I did not know of, and again, shout out to my librarian because she told me about this, and I came whoa, where was this all this while? So again, I did not know of this, but she passed on the gem to me, and I love it. So ask. That's all I say. Ask. Have that conversation and find out more. That's the big thing that I would like to really highlight. Now, School Library Journal, they also have a grant for educators, and I think it's $700 if I'm not mistaken, and you can get sets, you can get individual ones, and pretty much I've heard a couple of my friends have applied and got it. I have never applied for it, but everybody gets it. So spread the word, get some more books. And Elizabeth Bird is the panelist whose blog is amazing. She talks about other books that did not make it to the Mythical Book Awards, but are real jewels in their own sense. So do take a look at that blog also. I cannot emphasize this enough. All I say is ask, because often there are so many resources available, everything from grants to money from our funds from the site, from the district, from the county. There are so many things made available to us in the field of education. And I understand, because I often get lost in the realm of teaching and, my math class and my family and my world, that I just don't want that another thing to do. But I have realized that there is so much. There is so much that the only thing that's between me and that is my asking. Unless I ask, and then I am surprised, like, wow, that was easy. I just had to ask. So there it is. And I have a great set of administrators at my site, and I just requested them for some books for our teachers in the teacher lounge. And I was very reluctant, I have to say. It took me a while to mull up that courage and go and ask. But when I did, it was just like, sure, we'll get you that. Send me the list. And I sent a list of like 40 books. It was as easy as that. So sometimes it's that inertia, sometimes it's that reluctance, sometimes it's just the lack of time. Whatever it is, let that not be in your way. Please ask around. What's the worst? They're gonna say, what? No way. It's okay, we move on. And there are so many grants out there and so many people who just want to give away books. And if you're on Twitter, please tweet on ahead. Please, there is a whole world of people who are ready to share. They just give away the books because they're no longer able to care for those precious treasures. So I have literally bundled up boxes full in my garage, which I've not even opened. And all I sent was a thank you card, because they won't even accept money. They just said, I just need a safe home for this. So it's just as simple as that. Please ask. And that's all, folks. If you did not notice, I am a big fan of Tom and Jerry, and Twitter is my jam. So please tweet on ahead. At this point, please unmute and speak, ask, share. You probably have more jewels than I do. So please, I am grateful that you're here today on a Saturday afternoon, on a very nice sunny Saturday afternoon, listening to me and my Tom and Jerry GIFs versus hiking outside. So I appreciate your time. So please, any questions you have, anything I can help answer, please instill that mathematical love into our math.
And I saw you were wrapping up. I know you wanted a 10-minute warning, but I could see. So it's only like a minute after, but you knew that, I guess.
Thank you so much, Trevor. So please, any questions? And that's the link to the bit.ly. If you will be having to make a copy of the slide deck for your own consumption, please. And most of the images are linked, hyperlinked in. I do have some notes in the speaker notes section, so feel free to check it out and add on, tweet on, please. Would love to hear back from you. If there's any question I can answer,
Do you have a, Sandy, can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes.
Do you have a list of the people your kids did biographies on?
Not yet. So they have time till 28th, but I can pull out a few actually. Let me stop sharing and I will pull that out. So I gave them time till 28th of February to submit, but some of them already submitted, and Sophie Jerome, well, Katherine Johnson was the favorite because I have a poster of her in my class on my walls. My students know of her, so they kind of leaned on, and plus I did say bonus points for Black and for
So she's a double bonus point.
yes, she is. Let me check.
Because I'm doing a STEM biographies with K through 5,
So
but I only have 1 week for
Okay.
math, 1 week for oceans, and 1 week for space.
I have a lot of resources. Can you put your email in the chat to me so I can email it right after the session to you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I can send you the link that I shared with the kids. So I'll try to pull out this document if I can, because it should be.
Well, I'm here in San Jose too, so.
Oh, perfect. I'm going to share this document with you so you can. So Mathigon timeline is a great resource to look at. These are the 2 links that I gave my kids. And I got your email, thank you. So this is one of the resources that I told my kids to go to and check. And this is the other one. And I will email the document that I gave to them to set it up. So I will share this image. Let me share my screen. So I gave them this document that had these images, and they can just zoom in and see the images, but I gave them some resources where they can look up, and these are the links that I put in for you in the chat. And I also gave them a template, like this is what if you don't know how to start, and this is a list, here you go. This is a good list that I have. A few of the famous mathematicians that I gave them. I said, if you don't want to do your research, pick at least one from here. That will. Okay. So that was a good baseline for them to start on. And then I gave them this template where, again, if they didn't know where to start, they come up with the first draft. I selected blank, 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 and then they go on to explore a little bit. So, and I told them again, different ways that they can do it. And the final production would be something like this, like what is the birthplace, they died, what occupations did they have, what contributions to mathematics, and 3 historic world events that connect when that happened, and 2 interesting events from their lives, and so on. And what got them chatty was this part here, where I asked them marital status. I said, so they were like, why are you asking that? That's not okay to ask to find out if a person is married or not. And then we had this whole conversation about how way back, if you're choosing somebody from the 18th or 19th century, the church was big at that time. And in many countries, you know, and the Spanish flu and so many pandemics and epidemics happening, a lot of people did not get married for taking care of their family. A lot of the LGBTQ that students now associate with was not a concept that was popular, was not acceptable. So it got us talking about things like that. So I do like it that students are able to ask these questions and talk about things that they would otherwise not be comfortable sharing with. So I will send that email to you, Jenna. Sarah, would you like one to? Okay, I can send that to you too, Sarah. But thank you. That was. I will send it as soon as I finish this. Well, if you have the, hi Heidi, good to see you. How are you? So Heidi is my go-to person whom I ask shamelessly. So shout out to Heidi for that. Heidi, would you like to share anything with us?
No, but I would love for you to share me your lists because then I can add them to my purchase order for next year.
There it goes. Yay.
That's my goal.
We're constantly needing new ideas. So please, yeah, no, ask. You know what? That your presentation was awesome and I appreciate you asking me because I don't get a lot of people asking for anything. They just want to do it all themselves. So thank you for having the courage to do it.
No, thank you. She has really revamped our library. And like I say, library is not a place for just books. You know, students should be able to just come, relax, and have a space where they can think different from their textbooks. That's all. It does not have to be a place you have to be quiet or just read or quiet. Maybe yes, I'll agree, but read, not just read. There are different ways. You can listen, you can watch. And those are, we're talking about wearable assistive technology these days. So we need to move and evolve from there. So yes, thank you. I will send everybody the link that I have and you all have access to the slide deck. So tweet me out. Thank you for your time today. I do not want to hold back Trevor because I know Trevor is gonna get ready for the 3 o'clock session. So I appreciate your time and thank you all for all the lovely work that you're doing. Hang in there, get your vaccines. We'll be back soon.
Thank you very much. And remember, we still have a very active Discord channel going on if you want to continue having some conversations in there.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close it and get ready for the next one if you guys are okay
Let
with
me
that.
just save the chat so that I can look at it. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and also I think you can contact on the support. I think they save the chats too. So
Wonderful.
don't quote me on that though.
No, I will not. You've been fabulous. Thank you so much for your help and your patience.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Sarah. Bye. I'll email you. Yes. Bye.